What does it mean to be a true gamer? What are the trials someone has to go through to earn such a prestigious title? What games are accepted and what are the marks of the fakers? Why can't girls ever be real gamers? And how are titles attempted to be more inclusive, ruining gaming? Everybody knows someone in the gaming community like this, or at the very least has come across somebody like this. And their attempts to keep certain people out of the gaming community is what is actually going to kill gaming. We're talking about gatekeeping. Welcome to 3VO, where we're all on the same team. I'm your host, Jordan.
And I'm the other host, Brendan.
And if you're new here, we are just two big old nerds that absolutely love video games and just love talking about them. So if you too love video games like we do, then this is definitely the podcast for you. Today, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently than how we normally do our main episodes. We're going to be talking about a subject more than we're going to talk about a specific game or genre or something like that. But before we get into what we're here to talk about, as always, let's check in. Brendan, how are you?
I'm good. I have a confession to make.
Okay, go for it.
Today's episode. Well,
Sure.
it's a two-part confession.
Okay.
One is that we got something a little bit wrong in our gaming terminology video. So I'm here to redefine a term.
Oh my God.
And I also have to confess to playing a game which falls into the genre of the term that I will be redefining. So, we defined a MOBA in the previous episode as, well, that's multiplayer online battle arena, right?
Yes.
And then we said, like your Fortnite and your Apex Legends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
We said that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Not the case. Those are not MOBAs. Those are like battle royale. MOBAs.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Specifically are like League of Legends.
Yes.
Where you're like, it literally like dropped on a map and you have your side and the opposing team's side and you're kind of vying for control of the center and you're like going back and forth trying to get points, things like that, right?
I think I had the thought saying just like, I don't know if that's a mobile, but I was also still trying to wrap my head around smurfing, so I just kind of felt like, what the fuck do I know?
Right, and I didn't play any games of that kind at all, so I was like, yeah, that sounds right. Multiplayer, online, you're in a battle arena, sure, yeah, that makes sense.
Bad point for both the hosts for that to be the subject that's out of both their fields in terms of like shit that they play for games.
Yeah, truly, but I came here to make it correct today because I did start playing a MOBA. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I know what it is.
I've started playing Pokemon Unite pretty hard.
Yep. As well as my wife. She was playing it before I left.
Yes,
so.
I know. I'm playing with your wife. I'm playing Pokemon Unite with your wife.
Note to the editor, do not save the audio. I don't need that like selected out anywhere, please.
I have been playing an online Pokemon game with your wife.
Gotcha. So, just to kind of piggyback off of that, first of all, thank you for making that retraction. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
If anything, we will always try to stay factual here as much as we can and admit when we have said something wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But also, I've been seeing my wife playing it at home, and I have zero interest in MOBA. In MOBAs or Pokemon pretty much, but I gotta say the game looks like it's a lot of fun.
It is
delightful.
So fun. I've been having a grand old time. I've put tons of hours into it already.
Right.
And I'm frustrated because I'm at the point where it's like, okay, I know what I'm supposed to do, and I kind of have an idea about strategy, but I can't get any better. I'm like stuck in the class that I'm in, and I can't get any further. And sometimes I'm doing really good, but my teammates are terrible, and I'm like, I just need 4 other people that I can play with all of the time, and then I'll be happy.
Just people that you know are like a select good team that like are like yeah.
Exactly.
That you know how to play with.
And then I'll get better and play with playing with good players will make you a better player, and that's what I need.
Yeah, as always.
So, what have you been up to?
Off the bat, not to put some personal shit in here, but I would like on the podcast for me to get my apology because I was duped. I was messaged by our editor to come up with a title for the last Filthy Casual episodes that came out, and I gave him a great option for the title, and he said, "Jordan, that's amazing. You're a comic genius. I don't know how you do it, but Brendan should be happy to be doing a podcast with you. In fact, you should host every episode because you're so good at it."
This is not hyperbolic at all.
Not even a little bit. This is all true. I won't show the text, but it's all true. And yet somehow, even though I was told how good my title idea was, it was not the title that the episode came out as.
Listen. Things happen. Living with the editor, like, things happen, okay?
Totally fucking kidding, by the way. I'm not owed anything.
It'll be the next great title of the next Filthy Casual.
It will, which is why I'm not saying it out loud right now, because it's a good title. But no, I'm just kidding. Just wanted to give you some shit.
What have you been playing? Yeah.
The main thing that I've been playing lately, and this is sort of my confession, my little actual apology that I have to make, even though it's never been anything I've said out loud.
Wow.
A few years back when I got my PS4, it came with 2 or 3 games. At least 2 I know of. It came with the first Last of Us game, and it came with the God of War game that came out the most recently. And I was never big into the God of War games back in the day. Like, they were fun hack and slash. I just never got the hype.
Mm-hmm.
And so for this last one, I was just kind of like, I know it's going to be. I'm not going to be into it. Like, it's not going to be my thing. Mm-hmm. Started playing it just because I was just like, fuck, I got this title.
It's here.
I haven't played it. I should give it a shot. It's such a good game.
Yeah.
Like, it's a really, really good game. The gameplay is amazing. The writing is incredible. It's a gorgeous fucking game. Just like so. Even though I never said it here on the podcast, just apologies to the God of War fans for just like me not giving it its due credit, because it's gonna be one of my favorite games now. It's such a good game.
Ooh, I'm gonna have to play it. I haven't played a single God of War.
For this one, you don't really need to know the original 3.
Okay.
Because I know little to nothing about the originals. I played a little bit the first one back in the day and kind of went, this isn't my speed. Mm-hmm. But you don't really need to know much. It's sort of its own like thing now. So
cool, excellent.
Yeah.
Good to know.
Yeah. Other than that, taking a little break from that though, because it's October as of the time of this recording, which means that I've downloaded like 5 of my spooky titles again, because I'm going to be playing those throughout this month, because it's October. You gotta get the spooks on. So start another run for Outlast, which I got called out immediately because my wife came down and she was like, "You downloading games again?" I was like, "Yeah, it's October, so I'll get my spooky games back on." She goes, "So you're gonna play Outlast again?" I was like, "Listen, just because you're fucking right doesn't mean you have to call me out like this, all right? Leave me alone."
She's always right.
She's always right. It doesn't mean I have to like it, though, okay?
Any other spooky games that you're looking forward to playing this month?
Yeah, I'm going to go through all the Resident Evils that I have again. So I'm going to start from... I actually have never beaten Resident Evil 0, which is the prequel to the first Resident Evil game. So I'm going to get through that thing, too. But replaying through Resident Evil 1, the remake for 2 and 3, I'm going to go through again just because... I love those titles. And then whatever else I have that I get my hands on this month, that's going to be creepy and fun to play. I have Dying Light still downloaded, so...
I want to play the Blair Witch game. I have it downloaded. I've had it for months. I don't know if it's any good.
I played a bit of it back in the day when it like first popped up on Game Pass. It's a bit of a clunky mess.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, the feeling I got was that there was like 12 different games they kind of try to put into one game.
Oh, that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, now I don't want to play.
I mean, give it a try. This is just me. Like, give it a try. You never know. You might be like, "What are you talking about? This game's brilliant and amazing. You're stupid, Jordan. What a fool you are."
I also have Medium, that is the same studio as Layers of Fear.
Yes.
So I play that. Maybe it'll be a special Halloween time episode that we cover.
I think I've seen gameplay for Medium, and that game looks really, really cool.
It looks really cool.
It does look really cool. Yeah. That's the one where it's like you kind of jump between like the spirit world and the normal world, and you can like talk to ghosts and shit. Yeah.
In fact, actually, Jordan, thinking about it now, as of this recording, when this episode goes live, the next episode that goes live will be released on Halloween.
So we should definitely plan to do some sort of a Halloween episode.
Yes,
maybe
we should.
Maybe pick a game, talk about horror games in general. Something else. Let's just get drunk and talk about horror games.
Ooh, I like that.
This is a good idea. All right, cemented. This is what we're doing. We're just gonna get drunk and ramble about horror games.
It's like every other podcast.
Fair. You're not incorrect. All right. Now that all the pleasantries are out of the way, let's get to what we're talking about today. So this episode, it's for the real gamers, okay? I mean the real fucking gamers. I'm talking like if you haven't beaten the Halo games on Legendary with all the skulls on, if you haven't played all the Zelda games and like all of them, if you don't know what Sonic's real fucking name is, then I don't want you listening to any more of this shit, okay? This is for, if you're a chick, you need to be playing some shit other than The Sims or some other bullshit like that. And I'm fucking kidding with you guys. This is some absolute horseshit.
I was like about to leave.
Some absolute...
I was like, I don't like this.
No. So prime example of what we're talking about today is that as a whole, we're going to be talking about gatekeeping in the gaming community, and ultimately why it sucks and is bad for any community period, but especially for at least the way that the subject for our podcast. It's especially bad for the gaming community in general.
And I just to chime in, gatekeeping is a problem not only in like the video game community, but in a lot of other communities.
Oh my god!
Basically, any special interest community.
It's all fucking over the place, and it drives me nuts anytime I see it. I wouldn't consider myself to be a metalhead per se in terms of like music listening to. I listen to a lot of metal, but I've never been like the hardcore into the fan base. Part of that is because of how much gatekeeping there is within the metal community, and it's a lot of translated issues that just like come into it. Always stems within shit that's just like, well, we'll go over this stuff in a bit more detail here, but it always just stems down to just like flat out racism, sexism, just overall misogyny and stuff like that, and just like all the phobias that are just horrible bullshit.
All the phobias and all the isms.
Pretty much, all comes down to it. It's always bad. It always ends up bad. Like you don't always know you're doing it, and you don't always realize it's a bad thing, but it always ends up being a bad thing.
Absolutely. And while all of the things that we're going to be talking about are specific to the video gaming community, a lot of these things, you swap out like the topics and the nouns, and you've got gatekeeping in other communities. So 100%. A lot of this is applicable elsewhere.
100%. Yeah. So take this as a lesson that you could apply pretty much anywhere. So in researching, there is a Webster's definition for gatekeeping. And I really hope this doesn't ruin the credibility of our podcast in any way. But
what was it? Was it like a man standing at the gate? Maybe he's wearing a hat.
Kind of, yeah. It was pretty on the nose. Yeah. It was pretty on the nose, so I dug a little further, and so for this episode, just bear with me here. We will be using the Urban Dictionary definition for it, but I think it is actually more applicable to how we're talking about it today.
Absolutely.
So the definition from Urban Dictionary is that when someone takes it upon themselves to decide who does or does not have access or rights to a community or identity. It's used to make the gatekeeper feel superior to others on the outside or more deserving of an identity. Basically, it is, as the example that was listed at the top of the episode and my little impression in the middle here, it's that person that I think everyone has ever known, whether it's been on voice chat while you're playing online, someone you know personally, someone you bumped into at like a GameStop or any like local game shop or something like that, who was just has the worst, most toxic opinions about who can and can't be involved in playing a certain game, or just involved in playing games, fucking period, across the board. Now, I'm a large white man.
You are.
I know, it's crazy to think about. And when I don't have the get up and the nails done, I don't tend to get a lot of shit as far as like being a gamer goes. Most people don't question me when I say, oh yeah, I'm a gamer. It's just like, I never get out of or anything like that. Have you ever, just personally, any experience? Because I would imagine...
No.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But like, I also don't personally, like in my real life, know anybody that would fit that definition of like that gatekeeping bullshitty, like real gamer.
Yeah.
In quotes. Like, I don't know anybody like that.
Yeah. Same here. I mean, the only thing I can say that I've kind of had a little bit is like, because I wasn't a Nintendo kid growing up, so I've got a little bit of that shit. It was kind of like, well, you're not really a gamer if you never like played Zelda and shit, and just like, well, it's not even comparable, but it's like, well, fuck you. Look at my hours in Halo and shit like that. But also, like, you shouldn't need that comparison to compete.
Yeah,
and, like, being involved in the community and whatnot. And this is an episode I've been wanting to do for a long time because it touches on some things that is a big thing for me as far as like what I want from whatever community we thrive from this podcast. And we've talked about it before, but whether we have 10,000 or 50 people who watch our show, however long this lasts for us, I want to make sure that we establish as much and as early as possible that just like, if you are this kind of person who thinks that there are only certain types of people or only certain types of games that fit into the genre that allows you to be in a part of this community, this is not the place or the podcast for you.
There's the door.
It's just not. That is the one bit of gatekeeping that I will allow, is no gatekeeping. That's it.
It's that, like, you can't be tolerant of intolerant people paradox.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, because it's just like if you let if there's no line for just like what you don't establish in terms of going, no, this is where we draw the line in terms of like the kind of people that we accept, in terms of like them not being accepting of other people, then that's going to automatically limit your audience right there. And just, it's been proven time and time again, gaming and otherwise, that more inclusiveness makes things better. It just does. Every time you diversify things, it just makes it better. I don't care what anybody says. Star Wars is way better now than it was like 50 fucking years ago. It just is.
Diversity and intersectionality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's kind of dive into a little bit here in terms of like what it is that, quote unquote, I'm just giving this out as the example here. This is not our belief system or whatnot. Just in terms of like the stuff that is what it is that makes people a real fucking gamer or whatever it is. A big one that I always hear about, and this is one that I am guilty of too, because I used to do this shit a lot, is people who mostly play like the casual games. So these would be like your mobile game players, like your back in the day it'd be like your Farmville players and whatnot on Facebook. Nowadays it'd be more like Minecraft, Stardew Valley, stuff like that. Like shit that is like, I'd even probably put something like Spiritfarer kind of in that category.
Yeah.
It's a lot more low stress.
Animal Crossing,
yeah. Definitely. A lot of stuff like the
Sims, yeah.
Which is just, I mean, first of all, they are video games. So any argument that you're not a real game if you exclusively play those games is fucking stupid. But this stems from this like challenge idea, I guess, of just being like, oh, you have to have like a level of challenge to it, and something that is like high stress, or the plot or the story needs to be more important, or it's just there's a skill level threshold that people put on it and whatnot that I guess like these games don't meet.
It's a silly argument.
It's a really dumb argument, and I hate it, especially because it's just. I understand. Listen, if you are a gamer who your thing is that you love playing a game because you like showing off a certain level of skill and playing, great. That's awesome. That's super fun.
Yeah, like kudos to you.
Yeah.
But like, don't tell other people that they're not gamers. Maybe get a new phrase for yourself or a new title. Like, I am a professional Super Smash Brothers player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Great.
We've got friends that is their jam, is that they just sit there all day and they will play Smash and just like talk shit and just like try to prove who's better. And I just sit there and I watch them play and I just go, oh, this just looks like a mess. Like this is just, I know they all know what's happening, but I am confused and baffled, and I'm gonna sit over here and clap politely. That's all I'm gonna do.
Right. But at no point do they say you're not a real gamer.
No. Like, I mean, and I try to the only time that I'll try to throw in jokes, but they're all just like this and like hyper focused, so that doesn't land. But other than that, no, there's nothing like that. So it's just, I don't know. That whole thing just always bothers me. And sort of piggybacking off of that into the next one, it's just like not playing enough games of a particular genre.
Right.
This more falls into, in modern days, this would kind of fall into like, oh, you don't play Fortnite, or you don't play Halo, or you don't play da-da-da-da-da. That means you're not a real gamer or fucking whatever.
Right.
I mean, a lot of these are going to be kind of similar. It's because, as it turns out, when you sort of try to limit people, you kind of only really have one talking point. But it's, and just to kind of get through a few more of these, play enough of, just not enough games in general. So just, you got people which is crazy to me, because you have people who are my age, I'm 32, you have people who are my age who are just starting to get into games. Like, my wife didn't really start playing video games until she played them on occasion, but she didn't start really getting into playing games until she met me. And she was already almost 30 when she met me.
Wow.
So it's just like, okay, so what if you're someone who grew up not having access, and then you become an adult, or you become older, and then now you decide, I really want to get into gaming. Are you just fucked?
Right.
You need to play games competitively, meaning if you're someone like me and Brendan, who primarily like playing games for the story or single player components mostly, we don't really play. Well, now he does, because he's got his fucking. Okay, prior
not
to.
Not like real competitive.
Not like real competitive.
No,
yeah.
I have like a global rank, and it's not great. But I'm not going to like competition.
Yeah, but basically it's like if you don't play like Battlefield Online or Fortnite Online or whatnot, all of a sudden. Not a real gamer anymore. which is that one bothers me at a few levels. One, it's just more gatekeeping bullshit, but also two, when you look at the history of gaming, playing competitively online is still pretty fucking new.
Mm-hmm.
So how that became such a quick barrier
Yeah.
has always been kind of a baffling thing to me.
Mm-hmm.
And the next one is one that I'm also guilty of, is just the console PC war bullshit between just like, and it's still, when I still see it, it drives me fucking nuts.
To be more clear,
Yeah, please.
it's not like you have to have a particular console. It's like sometimes groups in this camp are like, oh, you're only a real gamer if you're on this console, and people in this camp are like, no, you're only a real gamer if you play on this console. And usually it's like PC versus like Xbox or PlayStation consoles.
Yeah.
When in fact, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. But we're more, at least in my experience, what it's more been is there's been PC, or there's been PlayStation versus Xbox, and then PC is kind of going, neither one of you are real gamers. Playing on a computer, nerds. It's like, fuck you. I just want to buy the thing and play games. I don't want to build something, all right?
But if that's your jam, then great.
If that's what you love, I know people who have just been like, I'm working on putting together my PC to be able to do this and this and this and this and this. I'm just like, that's fucking cool. I'll be on my Xbox because I'm a lazy piece of shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I don't want to go through all that. But you seem to be enjoying yourself, so fucking go ahead. And it's just like, if that's your jam, fucking great. But it's just don't become a dick and decide that just because you have to, just because you can do it, that means that's how everybody has to play games. That's what it breaks down to for me. And just the next last thing for this little list here is just ranking. It's just like having rankings in games and just like being at a high level or like hours play. It's all really one point because it all ties into just like how much time have you played games.
Exactly. It's like how much time and energy and money.
Yes.
That's also a big thing. Time, energy, money, resources. How much have you actually dumped into this? Oh, you've met my arbitrary requirements? Cool. I recognize you as a gamer.
Yeah.
That's what it comes down to.
I've bumped into people like that when they used to play online, just like, oh, I've done $200 into COD. I mean, cool, dude. Like, that's great for you. I don't know what that means for me. Just like, I just like getting online every once in a while and just like, having a competitive match and then walking away and going, oh, it was a cool like hour and a half I wasted on my day. Sweet. Now I'm done. But you ruined that somehow.
Well, and that person that said a thing like that, maybe wouldn't have said or felt the need to say something like that had they not probably come up in that sort of environment. If this environment didn't exist, imagine all of the people who probably wouldn't be assholes.
It's a really, really good point. And that's part of why I want to talk about this too today, is just to kind of be like, I'm coming down a little harsh on it because I'm passionate about this, and I do believe that the idea of gatekeeping ultimately is bad. But this isn't just, I'm not trying to say just like, hey, if you have these habits, you do this stuff, you're a bad person. I've done this shit. I still do some of this shit. I'm working on it. It's habits I am slowly trying to get myself out of, as far as like being middle-aged fucking white guy in gaming. Just like, I've grown up with a lot of bad habits.
You're not middle-aged.
I'm 32, man. That's almost middle-aged.
No.
That's almost Brendan. Somebody just had their birthday, and they're freaking out a little bit about it. How old are you?
Not 30.
Okay. I remember that time in my life. I'm just going, it's not 30 yet.
Not
it's not
yet.
30. I'm not there yet. Can I just say, slide pause on the subject here? I'm not going to lie to you. Getting into my 30s was one of the best things that ever happened to me.
Oh, really?
Like, I talk shit. I genuinely love being 30.
Oh.
You learn, like, how to truly not give a fuck. I don't mean that like a shitty, just like, I don't give a shit kind of way. I mean, just like, you kind of go, why did I care about this shit? Like, what? All this bullshit that I've kept in my life, like, why did I care? This is stupid. Fuck that. Let it go.
Cool.
Yeah. So personally, 30's been great. just to put a little pause and just to throw that out there.
I look forward to not giving a fuck.
Yeah. But to piggyback off of that, it was also the time of my life when I started kind of going like, oh, I do have all these really bad habits and things that I picked up on. Oh, geez, okay, maybe this is time to kind of look internally and work on some of this stuff, which is where sort of the original inception for this idea for this episode did kind of come from.
Thanks. Very cool.
Yeah.
Growth.
We're working on it, guys.
I am not so unself-aware as to say that I have never done this.
Right.
Because I probably have in some way. But looking back, I can't like actually think of a very tangible example where I have. But I'm not going to go so far as to say that I never have done this.
Oh, yeah.
I doubt it. Being like the bullied gay kid and growing up with a Nintendo, like,
That's fair. That's fair.
I don't see that for me.
That is fair. Although I will say part of the reason why, and it was pretty much the one and only reason why that I could find as like a positive reason for why you would do gatekeeping is because some people find that this is the only community in which they feel safe, and having anybody else coming in from the outside feels like a kind of a direct attack on them.
Yeah, there's definitely like times where gatekeeping is not only important but also appropriate and necessary.
Yes.
And that would fall into communities that neither of us belong to. I think.
No, absolutely not.
And
absolutely
so
not.
we won't go in depth into that. Pointing out space like, oh well, it's very necessary in this kind of space. We could muse about that, but I'm not my subject, not my field. I'm not the expert on that.
Yeah, same. It's two white dudes.
Yeah, exactly. But
there are certain areas that we're not going to pretend like we're experts on.
And too often and too frequently have white people, white men, gone gatekeeper or like met a gatekeeper and gone, no, fuck you, this is mine now. And so,
So we're specifically trying not to, we're sort of roundabout talking about that. And if we do sort of dive into some of those topics in terms of talking about like the other communities that we're outside of, we hopefully people understand that we can approach in a way that is understood, that we are definitely coming to it from an outside looking in perspective, and that we're not going, we figured it out and we know what the problem is here. It's us.
Not at all.
it's more than anything, it's us going, holy shit, did you fucking know how bad this was?
Yeah.
And just like sort of learning, sort of trying to counteract our own ignorance on some of this stuff is the way that I kind of look at it.
Yeah.
But the big thing with that though was that even though preserving your space and trying to hold it to and whatnot, and as we're talking about, this is excluding those certain communities and whatnot. Basically, gatekeeping comes down to just wanting to just like it comes from an elitist standpoint. It's an act of superiority. It's a way to make yourself feel like you're above others. And so when you try to exclude other people from it, it's just a way to make yourself feel better. Like we've all fucking heard this shit of just like it goes back to the examples we made earlier. It's kind of like, oh, you've only played the first Halo game. Oh, you only played it on normal. I've beaten all of them on Legendary with all those skulls on. It's just like, fucking good for you, bro. Like, who cares?
Right. Yeah. Well, that's toxic masculinity rearing its ugly
It's
head.
really so much shit, and this just boils back down to toxic masculinity. Which is, and here's the thing on that too. Just want to say, if you are somebody who loves, to use a prime example of something that I would say is definitely geared more towards people who have a more like what we normally identify as like a manly, more masculine sort of like aesthetic to it. You're a dude who loves the Gears of War games. I am not talking shit on you right now. I'm really not. Just want to make that clear. I love the Gears games too. They're awesome, really fun games. But the standard for everything that is not is basically what this kind of boils down to for me. Is that not everything has to be that. Point of example there would be that when they rebooted the Tomb Raider games a few years back, that's one of my favorite game series now. I never played them when I was a kid, because even as a kid when I picked up the first Tomb Raider game, I went, this is janky and clunky as hell, and I don't like this. But better graphics, smoother gameplay, a much more like human character who wasn't just a fucking fembot, basically. Just it made it a much more enjoyable experience for me. It's just I get it, because I've sought that feeling of superiority at different points in my life, unfortunately, and it's in gaming, outside of gaming, and it's just like, it was something I was thinking about honestly on the drive over here of that, and just use sort of an outside example of it's just like maybe you didn't notice it, but we've definitely had this before in our lives coming from theater, in terms of kind of going like seeing the new group of kids come through college and the theater program, going like, who the fuck are these guys? They don't know. What are these shows they're recommending? Like, you want to do, well, no. We don't do that kind of show here. What are you talking about? When really the idea should be like, I've never thought about doing that. Yeah, let's do that actually. That sounds like it could be fun.
Yeah, that's okay.
Rather than just like being completely exclusive to all that shit.
Again, probably the environment we're brought up in.
It's true.
Not to say like okay. You can't blame everything on your environment. You know, you can't just be a dickbag to other people because people were a dickbag to you.
Yes.
You know. However, it happens.
It does happen. I think it's one thing to recognize that your environment, here's what it is, your environment can play a role in your behavior, but once you recognize that, it's up to you to change your behavior.
Yeah,
I think is what it is.
Yeah.
So once you recognize those toxic traits that your environment helped build in you, it is unfortunately up to you to change said behavior. Is kind of what it boils down to for me. Just want to mention this quote that I got. I read 2 articles about gatekeeping, specifically in the gaming community. One was from this woman named Jezebel Garcia, but she wrote this great article, and one of the quotes that I pulled from it is, "Video games are a fantastic way to bring people together, and gatekeeping can cancel that out entirely if the person's on the receiving end doesn't have very thick skin. Such a shame considering that there are many social skills you can learn from video games." Which is really true, especially for me as a very, very socially awkward kid growing up, just in almost every single sense of it. Like I grew up with a stutter. I was just always the oddball in school, and my family, like, not the same thing. My family loves me. My family loves me to death. But, you know, I was the weird artsy kid in a family full of jocks. they kind of didn't know what to do with me. They just kind of went, this is the first one. We don't know. He just wants to play make-believe and act like somebody else. I don't know what to do with this kid. Everybody else here wants to just, like, build shit and go play baseball. I don't know what to do with him. But getting involved in gaming and getting involved in like playing online and getting to know people online and playing in that structure, it did help a lot because you learn how to talk to people, you learn how to interact with people and whatnot, and you just the spectrum is so broad. Even in the early days of just like I could be playing with anyone. The amount of times I used to hop online in Halo 2 when Xbox Live first came out, just hopping online and hearing somebody just talking in like German or Australian or just like a French accent and just being like, holy shit, dude, where are you from? And they're like, no, I'm from France or Germany or New Zealand or Australia and something like that. And just like in the middle of a firefight, just you're shooting people and you're going like, what's it like over there, man? It was such a cool gateway into just sort of being like, oh, there's other people who exist in this world outside of this little tiny bubble that I've been existing in my entire life. And especially for young people, it can be such a cool entrance into that idea of like, look, I grew up in a town of 20,000 people. There's 6 billion people on this planet, and I have access to a lot of them now. And I can learn from them and I can grow from them. But instead, well, not instead, because there are definitely, I'm not trying to say it's all bad. There are so many other people in the gaming community, big influencers, big people involved, who are doing their absolute best to try to end the toxicity in it and do their best to try to make it more inclusive and whatnot. But there's also still so many people who are influential and people who are major parts of the gaming community and whatnot who are still pushing this certain agenda that it's just like, it's a real bummer to see because it's like, especially knowing that it's just like, with some of the influence of people who are bigger out there, it's like, dude, you wouldn't have this career if it wasn't for this massive outreach that you have to everybody. So like, why are you being the one who's trying to keep the gates closed?
Yeah.
Just drives me nuts. And just to, like I said, we're not going to dive in deep into some of these because we're not experts on these and we are not a part of these communities. Well, except for one, where we're arguably a part of one community that gets a lot of hate and shit within the gaming community and whatnot. But just,
but like not that badly.
Not that badly.
We're still white men.
We are still white men.
Bad for us.
It really is not that bad for us, and especially like, at least for me, most people just meeting me don't assume that I'm bisexual.
Yeah.
Just like there's nothing, just like unless you see me like this, most people would be like, that guy likes cock.
Even then, I don't know if I would go,
yeah. Really?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough then. But Point being, we're just going to kind of like gloss over some of these major hit points, and not because we're being dismissive. It's just because, like, we don't want to try to speak with authority on a lot of these things here. And this is to me where any argument for gatekeeping in terms of like being protective and trying to keep itself together and whatnot, kind of, unless you're from these groups, literally just trying to protect yourselves in this community, kind of falls apart for me, because the biggest ones that always get hit are people of color, women, or people who are femme presenting, the LGBTQ plus community, and just in general, just everyone ends up getting hurt. Because even if you are just a straight white guy playing video games, you are hurting yourself by excluding other people from the community. Because again, inclusivity always makes things better, and broadening your perspective on things always makes things better.
Can I expand something?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah,
please.
I just want to expand LGBTQ, because LGBTQ plus has been like the acronym for a while, but we're going.
It isn't accurate. It isn't accurate.
It is. Yeah.
You are
It's
correct.
LGBTQIA2 plus. Inclusivity.
I understand. It's so long.
Correct, but
it's a little bit more effort to make sure everyone's included. You are correct.
And I really think that it's really important to include the two on the end, to include our two-spirit.
You are correct.
Friends in the spectrum, because that group of people has been around a lot longer than some of the other letters in the acronym,
which was something I just learned about. Like, I just, on a broad level, I just learned about the whole two-spirit thing, and it's awesome. I love that idea. That's such a cool way to go about things.
Yeah, and I think it should definitely be in the acronym. I think it maybe should be at the front of the acronym, because they've been around a lot longer and doing a lot of
the heavy lifting for a lot of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. But then again, you still have people within that community who are trying to say that trans people shouldn't be involved in the community. So getting them on board for that shit is going to be a whole other fucking struggle, because even though it's been around longer, people are just learning about it. So a whole other thing that we might talk about at some point. So that way we can have a little bit more of like a personal focus aspect on it or something like that.
But the fact is that anybody can be targeted by gatekeeping. You can meet anybody at a party and strike up a conversation, and all of a sudden it can be an interrogation. And it's like, well, do you play this?
But it goes back to what I said earlier, as far as just like my gaming cred really has never been questioned too much, unless I offer up something
because of your identity.
Yeah, unless I offer up just like, oh, I never really played like the Zelda stuff because I never had Nintendo growing up. That's when my shit gets checked. But I have personally seen it sometimes. If you're a woman or femme presenting, or a person of color, or somebody who identifies as being gay, or lesbian or something like that, and you go like, oh, I'm a gamer, I love playing games. All of a sudden it's like, oh, really? Well, like, who's Zelda's dad? And if they for any question they get asked, it's like, if they go, I don't know, all of a sudden they're a fucking fake gamer.
Yeah.
So it's like, and especially with that, it's just like, I've never seen it from me or any guys who look like me. So it's like, straight white males are not the ones who ever have to show their gamer card.
You never have to prove it.
They never have to prove it. Not really anyway. It's just kind of accepted. Just like, anytime, like, and I get it because he talks about it a lot. I'm going to use a celebrity example here, but he has talked about it. So he has sort of, but he's done it on his own, shown his gaming card. But like someone like Henry Cavill has never had to like really prove that he's a gamer. Like, just because the first, he's done it more now, and he's talked about like, oh, I built my own PC and I've done this, I've done that, and like it's all groovy and cool. But like, he mentioned in an interview one time, just like, oh yeah, I was playing World of Warcraft and I missed a phone call for audition or something like that. Which is a funny fucking story. Don't get me wrong, I love it so much. But it's like, from that point on, it was just like, he's a gamer, he's one of us guys, it's cool. And it's just like,
he's cleared.
He's cleared. It's good. It's like, that might have been the first time he played WoW. You don't fucking know. Could have been the first day he started playing. But it's just, and so on that point, that's what the part that bothers me with gatekeeping, because it's just like, it's just being so phobic in every single sense. It's just being incredibly phobic, and it's just,
So then, Jordan, what does make somebody a gamer? We've talked about all of the things that some people believe don't make people a gamer. So what makes you a gamer?
Okay, you have to bear with me here. It's complicated.
Okay.
It's real step-by-step process.
Should I get some
You
paper?
might want to write this down.
Okay.
You might want to get this down. Okay, you ready for it? You play video games. You enjoy playing video games.
Okay, got it.
That's it.
Wow.
You gotta play games. You gotta like playing games. It's all you gotta fucking do. That's it. To be a gamer, you just play games and you like doing it.
Seems pretty straightforward.
That's it. It's like if you're playing games right now and you hate doing it, stop. Just stop. Why are you doing it to yourself?
What situation are you in?
What are you tied into? Why are you doing this to yourself? It's a very bizarre situation here, and you need to call somebody. But it's really, I don't know. That's just been it, and just like this is not, when we talk about this, we're not talking about like on the professional level of people who win fucking millions of dollars playing like League of Legends and shit like that, which still blows my mind, by the way. I can't, that's the one old white guy thing I can't wrap my fucking head around. Is this like people make a shit ton of money competitively playing video games.
Esports, baby.
It's so fucking insane to me. I have respect. I have so much respect. Another thing I've had to get over, used to talk a lot of shit on esports. I really, really did. It doesn't help that a lot of them apparently are kind of dicks.
And probably gatekeeping themselves.
Just based on some of the random stories I've heard. So it's just like, that doesn't help. But just like, you know, it is a skill set and it's a marketable skill set. So I cannot talk too much shit on it. But it's just, you know, at that point, unless you are playing it on a professional level and you're getting paid to play video games on that competitive level, you just have to play games and you just have to like playing the games you're playing. That's really fucking it. It really doesn't need to be more complex than that. I mean, am I missing anything? Do you think?
No.
Kind of nailed it pretty well, I think. Play video games and like it. And just to sort of...
Well, and like, I think that, okay, I think you could broaden it even a little bit more. Maybe you don't actively like to participate and play video games. You know, maybe you're not physically able to play video games because you can't hold a console, or, you know...
Sorry, but we need to backtrack a little bit. That's a whole other group that has also experiences gatekeeping.
Another marginalized group.
Another marginalized group is a community of people who are...
mentally and physically disabled.
Ableism in gaming is always been a huge fucking thing.
So, like, if you just really like watching other people play video games, or you like are, you know, always on somebody's Twitch stream or whatever, you know, and you're participating in the video game community just in a way that's like better or different for you, if you're still actively enjoying and participating in the community that loves video games, you're a gamer in my book.
To which I will say, I feel like there's a little bit, unintentionally, there is a little bit of ableism within that statement as well, though, because just because you are differently able does not mean you cannot play games.
No, and I'm not saying that.
There's been a lot of work done in order to make sure that.
No, absolutely, and that's very important work, and I didn't mean to sound dismissive of that.
I wasn't trying to jump down your throat. I'm just making sure.
No, That's not. No, I'm just saying, like, maybe you are, you know, maybe physically disabled in some way and are not able to participate, or it would be difficult for you to, or you don't have the money to purchase that special equipment, so maybe you don't. Like I said, multitude of reasons. You know, if you are in this other sub-camp that I'm saying, you know, don't actively play the video game, but like are appreciative and interacting, you know, because if you are physically disabled, you probably have other, you know, like
other priorities,
other gatekeeping things that are getting thrown at you. But if you're actually playing the video game, then you're a gamer. So by our definition.
No, which is fair. Right. To that point too, is just like I said, I was never, as a kid, I wasn't really a Nintendo kid. I had the original Nintendo, and then I never really had another Nintendo console until the GameCube. So there's like, I want to say like 2 or 3 generations of Nintendo games and stuff that I just like missed, that just like flew right by me and shit. So something that's been really cool for me is being able to have access to stuff like the Game Grumps, Markiplier, Jacksepticeye, guys who will do just like full runs of games that I can sit there and watch and just like finally just like, because like, you know, now I know the plot for like Wind Waker, and I know the plot for a lot of the different Zeldas and the Sonic games and stuff like that, just because I got to see somebody else go through it, and just, you know, it's time and money that I just, as an adult, I don't really have to go back and do all that shit. Nor just the general patience Just like there's also a lot of just like a personal me flaw in there too. Like, I don't have the patience to go back and play all this stuff. Just that too. But no, good point. I didn't even think about including that part. Just like if you were just unable to play games for whatever fucking reason, even if you just enjoy. Some of my best memories are sitting at my buddy's place and watching them play through games.
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, I can't afford to buy Resident Evil 4 right now. So, but my buddy's got it, and I can hang out and watch him play, and it's a cool game, and it's fun to watch.
Yeah. So I think if you fall into that like subcategory of people that are participating in the gaming community that way by maybe not actively playing, you're still a gamer in my book. You know, because you can sit on the sidelines or not to sound bad, like you're not sitting on the sidelines, but what I mean is like if you're viewing but not participating, you might have the best strategy. You know, you might have a better understanding of everything that's going on. You might, you know, it's a totally different understanding.
Well, we don't ever say that like the only people who are into sports are the people who play the sport.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You're not a football. You're not a football fan only if you play football. That'd be insane.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
So it's like, if you just like watching people play video games, I would definitely put you in the community.
Yeah, absolutely.
You probably know more about games than I do because you sit there and just absorb the content at a certain point.
Yeah.
I like that. That's true. Just to kind of round it off, though, just like at a certain point, the main focus of this and what we've been trying to say throughout here, and just like if you have anything more to add or say here, because I have liked your add-ons and like corrections at certain points. It's been appreciated. Is that basically when you exclude people from your community, you're not just being a dick, but you're really robbing yourself of the opportunity to learn something outside of your scope. What we were talking about earlier, that bubble you're in, because we all exist in it. We all have a bubble. And we get really, really comfortable in that bubble and go, this is where I exist. This is where I know everything in here. And so I'm good and I'm fine. And then shit starts coming into your bubble starts slowly expanding, and you freak out. It totally happens. It happens to fucking everybody. It doesn't matter what walk of life you come from. If you can grow up in the most progressive household, the first time you meet somebody who's a little bit more on the conservative side, let's put it that way, you have a freak out. You have a moment just kind of like, you own a gun? Just as an example on the other side of things, to say just like it can happen on either side is what I'm trying to argue here. But just outside that scope, with the combination of games, internet, we have been given such an amazing opportunity to learn about other people that we would normally never ever get to meet out in real life. So to dismiss this chance is just such a fucking waste to me. I've said so many times, the addition of others to the community does nothing but strengthen the community. Inclusivity is always going to make things better. There are very few examples in which that when you include more people of a different type or come from a different place in the world or different community, as long as they're accepting to learn also when they come into that community, it does nothing but add. You never get a subtraction in terms of like anything good happening from it. You only add to that perspective. And so it only makes it better. And to that point, it's something that happened a bit recently. I don't know if you remember this, but there's a gentleman by the name of Ernie Gygax Jr. He's, if I remember correctly, he's either the son or the grandson of one of the early like onsetters. He was an original tester for the original like D&D campaign. So going back to like Gen 1 for D&D, like in its early days.
Well, I don't know the family tree, but the person who invented, like came up with D&D is Gary Gygax.
Yes.
So this guy is Ernie Gygax Jr., probably his grandson.
Yes, you are correct.
I would estimate.
Yeah. So he's his grandson, and he recently came out and was talking about how with 5th edition and everything that D&D has become too woke and they're trying to make it too inclusive, so we need to take it back to its roots and blah, 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 blah. Dude just got fucking blasted on the internet for his shit. Rightfully so.
I'm so sad for him.
I know. Listen, we're not going to get into today. There are certain issues within the idea of cancel culture. However, calling out douchebags like this is not one of the issues, in my opinion. But a part of that too, and I'm not saying this is like this, you should only do this as like self-preservation and whatnot, but ultimately, you kind of need to keep up with the changes and the inclusiveness of what's happened in the community, because otherwise you're getting left behind It's just the way it's going to go. Progress will always keep things moving forward. And guess what? Gaming is moving forward. It's a slow fucking progress forward. But we're getting there. You're seeing more and more stuff. You're seeing more. Can you give me the full LGBT acronym again?
LGBTQIA2+.
Thank you. I need to get better about remembering that. You're seeing more representation there. You're seeing more female-led games. You're seeing more inclusivity in terms of people of color and just like and it's gender is becoming such a different thing now within games itself too. That it's. I've seen games recently where they've talked about the fact that it's kind of like, yeah, we'll have male and female, but then we'll also have just like do not want to specify options. Or just a non-binary option in games is starting to slowly pop in and out of things and whatnot. So basically what I'm saying here is that it's happening. So keep up or move to the side because we're going to keep marching forward because I like it personally. I like how much more inclusive the community is getting. It's only made it better, and games are getting better because of it. More perspective means better ideas, and it's just more strength in the community itself. It's kind of where I fall on it.
Absolutely. And I think a very actionable thing that people can do to like very, very actively participate in the like inclusivity of gaming culture is like if you're on a platform like Twitch or YouTube or whatever, make a concentrated effort to follow more people of color, more women, more female presenting, trans, non-binary, like all those people, like all of those marginalized people. Make a concentrated effort to like search out some and find some that you like and follow them and you know contribute to their following and their community within the gaming community.
It's one I've had to do a lot recently because it's just like I was looking at the scope of like the people I follow online. So I'm an old school Rooster Teeth fan from back in the day when I was like 16, which is an online company that goes back, for anyone who knows them, they did Red versus Blue back in the day. They're still doing it, but they've just always been an online group, and they've always been into gaming and whatnot. And I looked at it a few years back, and I went like, all the people I follow on here are mostly male, and they're all mostly white. I need to broaden my horizons a little fucking bit here. Thankfully, I got lucky, and Rooster Teeth kind of went, we have the same thought. We also need to broaden our horizons a little bit. So even their own community, as far as like their online personalities, has gotten a lot more broad than what it used to be, thankfully.
Yeah. And don't blame yourself too much for that because like an algorithm did that for you.
It's what I was shown.
Partially. You know, like
true, but again, once I recognize that's the problem, it is up to me to make sure the algorithm changes for me. But you're right though. It is, especially now. It's like it's so simple now because like it's so easy now.
You can look up LGBTQ+ on Twitch.
Yeah. You could just find that category. You could just go there and just like sit there and look. And even if like that, and even if you go to it and go like, you know what, I don't know if I like this person from this community, that's fine. Not every person is going to match up with you, which is not going to happen. No. But don't just look at that one example and then go, well, I just don't like anybody from this group. I just don't like people of color in general, and use that as your confirmation bias to be like, check out a couple. Just check out a few, go through. You'll find somebody who you match with. I promise you. There's not anybody from any of these marginalized groups you can't find somebody who you don't walk in with on some level, at least like a little bit here. And that's part of finding the common ground too, is going like, oh, well, this person came from a different like background and lifestyle than me, but we both like Call of Duty, we both like Kingdom Hearts or something like that. And it's going to go on like, okay, well, let me see like why they like this so much. Maybe we line up there, or maybe they have a different idea of why they like it. And so it's just about finding different perspectives here, you know? Thank you guys so much for listening. We really hope you enjoyed our discussion about gatekeeping in the gaming community. We know this was a little bit of a deviation from how we normally do some of our episodes here. A little ranty, a little slightly off topic here.
In a good way.
In a good way. I hope in a good way anyway.
Yeah.
But if you like this and you want to see more episodes like this, please let us know if you want to see more content like this in the future.
And also, if you have any ideas for future shows or future topics or future things that we can talk about on Filthy Casuals, which is turning into a little bit of a running bit or segment for us, you can always send us an email at 3vopodcastteam@gmail.com, and you can follow us on all of our social medias everywhere. We are 3VO Podcast on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. There's not a lot on TikTok, but that will change eventually.
We
will
keep
get
saying
there.
we're gonna do more stuff on TikTok, but it never happens.
Listen. We're growing and learning.
We also have like actual jobs and lives outside of this too.
Yeah, we're real people.
We're trying. We're really trying.
We will see you next time for a very special Halloween edition of the show. See you next time. Bye.